So, as an artist, I juggle many things. First off, I run my own social media platforms such as YouTube and Instagram, and then I publish my own graphic novels. I run my Patreon and Etsy shop, and most recently, I just started introducing art retreats as a part of the picture. So, for any of you who aren't aware, I currently am hosting art retreats in Japan, South Korea, and more recently added to the list, Greece. So, currently, we still have some spots left for South Korea as well as Greece, so if you're interested in joining any of those trips just mentioned, where you can join like-minded artists to explore a new country together, as well as working on our art goals together with some guidance and mentorship from me, you can check them out down in the links below. But managing all of these things are no easy feat, and for me, I really need to rely on tools these days to help me stay organized. I used to be that student that used to just know everything off the top of my head. All I needed was just a simple dimple planner. But these days, I've just been coming to realize that I need more than just a planner, and I need tools to help me out. So today, I wanted to discuss 4 tools that have really helped me organize and get my life together as an artist that is more of a freelancer these days, in which I juggle a multitude of different projects, as I just mentioned. The first app that most of you might already know about that I use is called Miro. So for any of you who don't know what Miro is, it is kind of like a whiteboard tool that allows you to organize different projects. And for me, I've used this both in my professional and personal life. So when I worked on Oni Thunder God's Tale, we actually almost always used Miro as an overall big picture place for us to review what's going on in each chapter or episode of the show. And for me, when I take this to my personal life, this is kind of where I put vision boards for all the different projects that I have in mind. So even when it comes to things like Instagram and YouTube, things like the branding or how I present myself, I need a place to organize all of these big picture boards. And I would say that's where Miro's strength really comes through, is for having these big picture plans. I find that as an artist, I have a need to really be able to move things around and see what is going on in my brain visually. So I feel like Miro really helps in allowing me to just create visuals, drag and drop images, and also they provide templates and graphs that you can just use and fill in if you want to do things like a mind map or a flow chart, or just ways of organizing your workflow as an artist. The last thing I really like about Miro is that it's kind of just a never-ending whiteboard. You can just keep going on for days and days, expanding this graph that will always have an infinite amount of space that you can keep adding onto. I don't know if you would want to do that as an artist, but I'm just saying, if you just really have these big complex ideas, like an idea for a series of books or episodes for a show, it probably can be possible for you to organize it all in one whiteboard. So then moving on, next is XTiles, who is also the sponsor of today's video. So XTiles is a visual project management tool which allows you to organize and manage all the different projects going on in your life, which is perfect for me as an artist. Some of you might already be aware of platforms like Notion, which I have honestly used before as well, but one of the things I've personally always struggled with Notion is that it is very text driven, and there's not really as much space for that flexibility of graphics or personalization. And for me as an artist, I will say I think Notion can be beneficial for some people out there, but it was very hard for me to really personalize it and customize it to make it feel like my own space. So yeah, I do have a Notion, and it kind of has just been collecting dust, and I think XTiles kind of reminds me of a version of Notion that might be a little bit more suited for artists, creatives, and younger generations who are more interested in having a place that can feel like their own personal room. So the thing that I love about XTiles is that they have a variety and assortment of all these different templates that you can just pick and choose from and then customize from there. You don't need to start your own template unless if you want to, you can. You can always create your own graphs, charts, visuals, schedules based on whatever you would like to do. However, if you're somebody like me that just kind of likes starting off with a structure and then customizing it from that point onward, that is something you can do too. So something I found really useful for Xtiles was to organize my art retreats, because with different trips going on, there's just so much that happens within each one that it's pretty much its own project. So you can use Xtiles as a daily planner, weekly planner, yearly planner, or planners for your own individual projects, which is what I plan to use it with. And because it is so visually driven, you can customize each box, the text within each box, and add in different widgets, as well as embed different websites, videos, photos, whatever you want to just kind of customize it to make it your own. I also love that you can just kind of drag and drop different boxes, and it doesn't really need to confine to a pre-existing structure. Like if you need to have different pages that go into this one project that have different boards that represent different parts of your project, that is something that really helps me, because I always feel like every section of every project that I work on kind of needs its own space. So not only is Xtiles a place that you can organize your projects, but it's also the place where you can execute projects and check off your to-do lists per day, week, month, however you work. So you can always incorporate calendars and schedules, especially if you're like me and you feel like you kind of need a timely representation of when you need to get things done. The other thing that I really like about Xtiles is that they have an option called collections, where you can basically, within each project, if there's a block that you feel like you might to remember in the future with categories of other similar blocks that you have in your other projects, collections is where you can kind of bookmark and hold all of the different blocks that are from different projects. So for example, when I am going on my art retreats, I'm going to have workshops that might be the same throughout different trips. But if I want a place where I can just see the workshops for the different trips, I can put all of the workshops spanning through all of my different trips all in one collection, in case if I want to see all of the workshops in one place. One of the most important things I would say I learned throughout a lot of this organization and productivity is that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what type of app you use. It just kind of matters what is the app that makes it easier for you to come back to and keep wanting to get things done. And for me, I feel like Xtiles is just one of those places, because creating that visual space that feels welcoming and aesthetic whenever you come back to it kind of subconsciously makes you interested in working on your goals, because it is visually appealing to do so. Similar to how when you do bullet journaling or when you have your own real life customizable planner, one of the things that make us feel motivated to get it done is because it allows us that space for personalization. So yes, the key in life is to make your plans look appealing so that you'll want to keep planning. If you're interested, you can check it out down in the links below. The great thing about Xtiles is that you can either use it for free or it can cost as little as just $5 a month. But if you really want to work with the most premium access to it, it would only cost $8.25 per month. Anyway, thanks to Xtiles again for sponsoring this video, and let's move on to the next app. So the next app that I've been using lately to really help me manage my tasks and productivity is AkiFlow, which you might have heard about in a previous video, where I think the strength in AkiFlow kind of lies in just being able to really execute and create a checklist in a calendar form. So that's just personally how I use it, and I know a lot of people use AkiFlow in a different amount of ways. But again, going back to organization, which is the key for me, is that you can pretty much organize all of the different projects going on in your life and create folders for them. So I have a social media one for Instagram and YouTube. I have a personal folder for all of my personal life stuff. And then I have a art retreat folder for all of my upcoming trips as mentioned. And if you couldn't tell by now, it is really difficult to manage all of your projects as a freelancer, because you might think that one day all you have to do is just focus on this one thing. But the reality is that when you are an independent artist, every day you're doing a little bit of everything, as much as you would like to be able to focus on one thing per day. So what I like to do is pretty much brain dump all of the tasks I ever have to do in the inbox section. And after I do that, I kind of just organize and hashtag each task into what project it belongs to. And then, throughout the week, I kind of will just delegate each task to a time per day. And that's personally the way that I prefer using AkiFlow. You can also merge it helpful. But the other thing I really enjoy about AkiFlow is that they have a rituals section where in the beginning of each day, you can see what work you have to do today. And when you do shutdown, you can see what work you have left to delegate for tomorrow that maybe you didn't complete today. I just kind of like that it kind of covers a lot of bases, or like your natural thought process as a planner. The last thing that I really enjoy is that they have a statistics section where you can kind of see where you've been putting all of your time throughout the week. And then lastly, Hootsuite. Hootsuite is my last organizational tool I use for my social media mainly, just because when you are on Instagram and YouTube or even some other social media platforms, you have different dashboards and places for your analytics to look at, which I will use, but sometimes you just want to see how your social media is all doing in one place. So for me, I'm trying my best to consolidate the types of content that I share on both YouTube and Instagram these days, and how can I make it just feel more unified, because I feel like my Instagram is still, I just post my comics here, and then YouTube is where I post like all of these day in the life, like behind the scenes of an artist thing. So in a way, they're two different types of platforms for sure, but I want to try to unify them a little bit more so that I can just stay on brand. So the thing that I like about Hootsuite is that you can see how you're doing overall across your multiple platforms and get tips and ideas of maybe what you should do next. And what I like is that it kind of tells you what's trending, what's going on in your specific industry that might be appealing to your audience, and also the fact that you can plan content ahead of time for the platforms that you use. Another thing that I like is that they kind of get an idea of what is the best time to post for your audience, and kind of just knowing like what performs well with your audience. So in a way, if you're someone that maybe cannot afford or hire a human social media manager, and maybe you're just starting your own social media for the first time, and you want something that you could either try for a free trial or actually pay for the services of, which would still be less than a real life social media manager, you can always try out Hootsuite to manage your different platforms and see what might be performing well and what might not be with your audience, which helps you then plan and organize your future content. And for any of you who are small business owners that do run ads on YouTube, Instagram, the good thing about Hootsuite is that you can manage all of the ads that you did all on its platform. And I will also say that I might do this for my future art retreats, assuming that this becomes a successful business venture. So if you're interested in an art career journey in South Korea or a sketchbook retreat in Greece, check them out down in the links below, as we still have some spots remaining for those. Otherwise, these are kind of the tools that have been my pillars of organization and productivity the past few months, and I hope that you check them out. Thank you again to Xtiles for sponsoring this video, and I will see you all in the next one.